divine reflection, Jabari Osaze, also known as Heru Jedin Ma'at Aten Ra, who has been studying ancient Africa, ancient Kemet for over 30 years. Today he's going to bring all kinds of information to y'all. So hopefully you got your pads out, you're ready to write, you're ready to learn more about it. Whatever you don't get today, we got DVDs for sale. Whatever you missed from this lecture, come visit me and we can take care of business. But at this point, I'd like to bring up Brother Jabari Osaze, Heru Jedin Ma'at Aten Ra.
Family, thank you so much. Peace, family, peace, family. I greet you in the ancient words of peace, of Ankh, Ujasanet, life, strength, and health. Before I say much more, some of you who have been watching us on Sonnetter's network.
Hey, peace, family. Has anybody seen a Galaxy phone? Yeah, my phone. No. Anybody found a Galaxy phone? Galaxy Android phone. Yeah, if anybody found it, alright.
Before I say anything else, some of you who have seen me on Sonnetter's platform have heard that Anika and I literally just got back from Kemet. We've been back like, is it 48 hours yet? 72 hours? Just got back. And as we returned, it was an amazing trip. But one of the things we wanted to do is we wanted to get something for Brother Sa. We have two things, but the other one we're going to give to you when we see you, not in front of everybody else. But this, we wanted to bring for Brother Sa because we want to salute the work that he's been doing. And we know that it is often thankless. Everybody has something to say. And he has been doing this long enough that he knows how to both tell us off and love us at the same time, as he brings knowledge and consciousness to our community, into our homes. And so Anika and I wanted to give him this. It's a carved Insu bead. Some of you might hear pharaoh head, Insu head, carved in granite in Aswan. And in many ways, we think that we're giving this to him because it is an emblem of the struggle to be correct, the struggle to do that which your ancestors expected of you. And so we want to give this to Brother Sonnetter for all the work that he's done in much love and much myrrh, and say that we love him. So with that, because even though we give him a gift, he's going to tell me, Jabari, you need to hurry up. We got to quick. Got to move on. So without further ado, family, I want to talk to you about a critical issue. And as I talk to you about this issue, I want to say that I am so pleased to be here at this day that celebrates unity. And often people ask me, they say, Brother Jabari, why is it that we're not unified? And I've found that over the years, it's interesting that my response is actually the same as any other ailment that people ask about. Why is it that we struggle in schools? Why is it that we struggle with housing? Why is it that we struggle with these issues in our community? And family, I'm here to say to you that fundamentally, the plight of the black woman and man is the plight of lack of knowledge of who we are. Now, I know that sometimes folks in the conscious community beat each other up on what we don't know, but we should also recognize that our ignorance of our true selves has been engineered. And that we cannot expect those people who benefit from our ignorance to free us from our shadows. And so it is of critical importance for us to come to this knowledge on our own. As I often say, Even though you know who's to blame, it doesn't mean that you aren't responsible for the solution. That's the reality. And so today I want to talk to you about a topic I think is critically important. It's called the African origins of civilization. Now let me say to you that this lecture is a 2-part, 4-hour lecture. We ain't got time for that. We're not going to do that. But I'm going to give you some of the high points so that we truly get to understand who we are and how knowledge of who we are has been taken away from us. Because I am of the mind that we need to know who the people are. I'm not just talking about white people, the devil, all those things that we say. There are names attached to some of these acts. And we should know the names. They are not as important as the names of our ancestors that gave civilization to the world, but we need to know the names of those individuals who did us wrong, who harmed us. So today we're going to talk about the African origins of civilization, ancestral echo, and the masters of human advancement. First of all, I need to say that no presentation, no comment is complete without honoring our ancestors. And so I want to dedicate everything I say to this amazing warrior scholar. Wow. To Sheikh Anta Diop. Say Sheikh Anta Diop with me. No, y'all have to be good at that. Sheikh Anta Diop. Our ancestors believed that in order for them to live into infinity, we had to continue to say their names. And this amazing scholar, coming forth from Senegal, actually went to France to do his doctoral work. And as my queen did her doctoral work just recently, I saw her do her dissertation and worked with trying to talk to her while she's working on the dissertation, getting those conversations that I used to give to her when I was watching sports. You know what I'm talking about, right? It was like, payback. I understand how challenging that was. This brother does his dissertation 3 times. I'm sure that by the 3rd time, the Sorbonne finally said, we're going to just give him the degree so he will go away. Because he's going to continue to do this, family. That's the kind of unbeatable African that this great ancestor was. And so he comes forth also with what is known as the melanin dosage test. Please say melanin dosage test with me. I'm going to say these words because I want you to do additional research. We have to know our story better than anyone else. So this test actually proves the pigment in the bodies of our ancestors. For the folks in the back who are talking, I know you're having a conversation and you don't think we can hear you. We can. I need for you to either end your conversation or to talk at conversational level. I shouldn't be able to hear you. Okay? In a second, I'm going to start calling y'all out because you don't think I can see you, but I can. Okay. Well, I also want to give this lecture in honor of Dr. Frances Cresswell. That powerful warrior sister who recently made her transition, that gave us the concept of exactly what sort of psychological, cultural paradigm the European, the Tambu, was working with as they attempted to destroy us. And so she comes forward with the Crest theory of color, and of course you know she is the author of the ISIS papers. Who's read the ISIS papers? Not enough hands. A lot of hands, but not enough hands. You need to get a copy. Powerful, powerful sister that did amazing work. And when these scholars do this kind of work, they often do it actually against their own financial interests. Because our community is not strong enough to protect us. And so we see so many of our members of our family who have made the ultimate sacrifice do this, and they humbly toil without financial consideration. So, let's move on. First of all, I want to to get you to think more about this issue. So I'm going to ask you, including the people in the back who are talking, listen, let's see how quiet we can make this room for a moment. I need you all to be quiet. I need you all to be quiet. Everyone. If you're having a conversation, it has to pause. I need you all to be quiet. Everyone. 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 I need you all to pause your conversations. Everyone. Okay. I'm going to say a few words. I want you to close your eyes and don't edit what comes to your mind. I want you to allow it to come forth and be present with it. Because we have to deal with the reprogramming that must occur. And so, close your eyes and simply be aware of the first image that comes to mind. Doctor. What does a doctor look like? Don't let the Black Power Fist African edit the first image that came through. If it's not what the Black Power Fist African in your mind agrees with, just be aware of it and be present with it. Nurse. What does a nurse look like? Scientist. Scientist. What does a scientist look like? What is the first image that comes to mind when I say the word scientist? Scholar. What does a scholar look like? What color hair do they have? What complexion are they? What gender are they? Philosopher. What does a philosopher look like? And then ancestral mother. What does your ancestral mother look like? When you think of the term ancestral mother, who comes to mind? Immediately. And then finally, ancestral father. What does your ancestral father look like? Be present with those images. Okay, open your eyes. Now, the reason why I wanted us to do that experiment is because particularly, I know I'm speaking to the home crowd. You wouldn't be here on a beautiful Sunday if you were not. But let's be clear, even conscious Africans have to deal with that negative socialization against ourselves. And so I want you to be present with it so you contend with it. And as you're contending with it, I want to inoculate you against some of the images that may have come forward. So you're clear about what these images should actually look like. Quick story. Now you know Jabari, for those of you who know me, Jabari is a Hermetic priest. This particular day I was driving in Harlem and I didn't do something that was particularly priestly. I was driving, car came and cut me off on the way to the FDR Drive. So I rolled down my window and I said a few choice words. They weren't as bad as you're thinking, stop it. But I did say a few choice words. And as is my way, I said what I said, and I was done. Turned up my music, was driving to the FDR. I began to notice there was a car swerving in and out of traffic behind me. I said, that's the same car that I had the confrontation with, like 4 blocks away. So finally he pulls up, when I get to the light, he pulls in front of me. And I said, look, I'm a priest, but I'm from Harlem. You can't just do that to me. So I open my door, I'm getting out. And the dude opens his door, he's getting out. And I'm looking at him as he's approaching me. And he's a muscular, young Asian man. What do I think? I thought, what if this is the dude with the second-degree black belt? So I said what I said, joked in my heart and go away. You know what I know, but here's the question. What does the world think you bring to the world of excellence when they see you? What is it that they expect you to do better than anyone else who's done it? And if it involves soul food or basketball, then we need to edit the script. And the fact that we have trouble editing the script is the reason why this conversation is important. So really quickly, I'm going to try to go through not only the origin of humanity, that's the DNA, the genetic story, but also I'm going to try to go through the origin of civilization. That's describing how those things that lead to civilization, literature, writing, mathematics, science, those things, where they are. Let's do it very quickly. And I want you to understand this is why this conversation is important. Take a look at this.
Our sympathy for finding black children as a whole have some bias toward whiteness, or less than white children.
This is my child. And why should it okay, show me the dumb child. And why should the dumb child? Well, show me the other child. And why should the other child? Show me the good-looking child. And why should the good-looking child? And show me.
I want you to understand that this issue with the legacy of the African is one that perplexes us at the youngest of ages. That our children question who they are, question their beauty, question their intelligence, question what they can do, what they can bring forward, what changes they can make in their community. This is the most important question that we can actually address. And in many ways, one of the major reasons why unity is something that is stressing us, befuddling us in 2017, is because we still have to address the fundamental question of who we are. When we understand who we are, then we will understand what we're capable of, and then, by extension, what we have to do. And so let's talk about this a little bit. First of all, let's talk about where some of these concepts that we are contending with today come from. Who's heard of Johann Friedrich Blumenbach? That's on chat. Get that. People say, I caught him. I said, that look wasn't. I'm checking for him, right? Johann Friedrich Blumenbach was an influential German, I'm going to say scientist with air quotes. And he comes forward with a treatise called The Natural Varieties of Humankind in 1775. He is the one that makes the greatest contribution in what people consider the classifications of race. Johann Friedrich Blumenbach is an unusual guy because he has dozens of skulls in his home. Dozens of skulls. And as he looks at all these skulls, he decides that one of them, in his impression, is the most symmetrical, is the most beautiful. And he says that this skull belongs to a woman in the area of what we call the modern-day country of Georgia, in the former Soviet Republic. And he says this skull is so beautiful that it proves that people of European descent are the primary, are the original human beings. And that everyone else devolved from the European. I didn't say evolved, devolved from the European. So he decides that he's going to develop a term for this pristine European source of origin. He calls these people the Caucasians. So see, y'all thought that y'all were being polite when you called Europeans the Caucasians. Right? Now I know you got other names. I know you got other names. But when you try to be polite, you say a Caucasian woman. But did you know that you were actually saying that that person is the original human being and that you are a poor copy? Did you know that? That's the reason why the term needs to be rooted out of our language. We have to stop using it and be very clear about its origin. Here goes a quick image from his book. Do you see? Here's the Caucasian. And notice the two branches. One ends up in the Oriental, that's the term he used, and the other in the African. And then he also has these interesting diagrams where he attempts to show that the profile of the Negro is close to what?
A monkey.
Close to what, y'all? Not just the ape, but what does this say there? I know it's an unusual spelling. The orangutan. He attempts to say that Africans are closer to other primates, they're closer to apes. That's the kind of information he came forth with. And then you should understand that Thomas Jefferson based his understanding on him and writes a book called Notes on the State of Virginia, which, believe it or not, was the most purchased book for 100 years. Well, the second most purchased book. What was the first most purchased book?
The Bible.
The Bible. The second was the Notes on the State of Virginia. And he actually says here, I'm not going to read the whole thing for the sake of time, but essentially he says that the African would be improved by race mixing. Perhaps that's why he decided that he would actually bring the child. Now, I told you I must speak truth to power, correct? We have to acknowledge that Thomas Jefferson was not just a rapist and an enslaver, but a pedophile. Sometimes people try to tell the story of him and his relationship with Sally Hemings as if it was a love story. I'm sure you've heard it. Yes, there was even a movie where she makes a decision because she's torn, maybe she loves him. She was 14 years old and he was a 44-year-old man. Would you allow your 14-year-old daughter to be with a 44-year-old man? He's a pedophile and a rapist. We need to call it as he is. By the way, this painting describes the relationship that the Virginians had with Africans. They had their way with African women while they bore the lash for the African men. That's the painting that describes the relationship. Now I'm going to tell you that as these Europeans try to describe their origin, they went to great lengths to attempt to create an origin for themselves. Who's heard of the Piltdown Man? Let's see. Anybody? A few hands. You know this room is the ringer room. Because usually I don't get that many hands. That's small. Usually I get one person, right? So you better understand that essentially these two men, Charles Dawson and Arthur Smith Woodward, in 1912 claimed that they found a skull in the area around Piltdown, not far from London actually. And they said that skull proved that the European had an independent origin. At least they say, even if humanity had its origin in Africa, the skull in Europe was so advanced that perhaps primitive man came from Africa and advanced man appeared in Europe. And then guess what happened in 1953? Now keep in mind, from 1912 to 1953, how many years are we talking about? Come on now. A little over 40 years, like 41 years. For 41 years, this was in textbooks. And in 1953, another European scholar got a closer look at the skull, and guess what he found out? That it was actually a human skull fused intentionally with the jaw of an orangutan and an added chimpanzee teeth. Simply so they could claim that the European was more advanced than the African. By the way, guess what one of these individuals does when it comes to life? He commits suicide. He commits suicide. That's how serious this is, y'all. There's an image of the Piltdown Man, by the way. This is closer to the origin of humanity. Take a look at this reconstructed model of an early African, an early human ancestor that we call Dinknesh. Say Dinknesh with me. You gotta say better than that. Dinknesh. Now listen, some of you don't know the word Dinknesh. Who's heard of Lucy though? Yeah. Everybody heard of Lucy. The Europeans that were involved, the Tomlu, that's the ancient Kemetic word, the Tomlu that were involved with this find called her Lucy because Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds by the Beatles was playing on the radio. But the Africans, the Ethiopians that were involved never called her Lucy. They called her Dinknesh, which means you are wonderful. It was one of the most complete finds of early human ancestors. She was about 3.5 feet tall, she had a smaller brain, but she walked upright. And it helps us understand that all of humanity had their origin in Africa. This is not Homo sapiens sapien like us. It's an earlier version, but it now begins to prove that humans have their origin on the continent of Africa. And then this happens. Who was around when this happened? I know it's hard to think of themselves. 1998, who saw this? Trust me, my father, now listen, 1988. This is prior to me going to college. I was in high school. My father brought several copies home. He had never brought a copy of Newsweek home in his life.
Brother Jabari, can you go back to Dinknesh real quick?
This one here?
Yes. Now, are you dealing with evolution here, brother?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I am.
Wanted to know that. That's
Does somebody want to
know? A lot of people don't like to deal with evolution because they say our ancestors did not come from monkeys. Now, are you saying that our ancestors come from monkeys, brother?
Let me be very clear. When we say that, we don't understand evolution. Because in actuality, the animals we call monkeys and humans have a common ancestor. We didn't come from monkeys. We didn't come from monkeys. And in fact, if you look at this on a DNA level, over 98% of the DNA between a chimpanzee and a human is the same.
And see, I knew that, but I wanted you to make clarity for the people out there. That's what they call it.
This is literally a 4-hour presentation, so I'm moving kind of quick. So I'm glad you did that. I'm glad you did that. So understand that saying that there are intermediate forms that led to us. I'm a priest, right? I deal with myth all day long. It doesn't mean I think there's a contradiction in science. Myth tells us about the nature of humans, while science tells us how we got here. That's all. We should do it this way. I don't see any contradiction at all. They're different stories. Okay. So I gotta come to a close really quick. Take a look at this. So you remember when this came out? I hope you did.
I remember that.
Well, understand that this was developed by a group of scientists that had dozens of placentas. And they looked at what is called the mitochondrial DNA of placentas from women all over the world of different racial groups, ethnic groups, on different continents. And what they were able to tell is that every living human being is actually the relative of one African woman. Did you hear what I said? I didn't say of African women. I said of one African woman. Now, by the way, the sister that I am paired to is bad. And I think of the sisters that I have had relations with, including my own mother. My mother just, listen, she could run the neighborhood, right? She'd open the door and everybody would stop. Can you imagine an African woman that is the mother of all humanity? What was that sister like? Amazing, amazing. That's the story that we need to be able to tell. By the way, when we look at the people that are the oldest people on the planet, they are called, often they're pejoratively called the pygmies. they could better be called those people that are in two groups, the Khoi people and the San people. So sometimes we say the Khoi San. Say Khoi San with me. Have you ever seen them? Yes? A few. So take a look at an image of the Khoi San man and woman. I think this is interesting. Notice that they're not the darkest African, right? Africans have a wide array of phenotypes. Also, the thing I find interesting is that they have eyes that some people might call Asian eyes. Folks, those are not Asian eyes. Those are eyes that we loaned our Asian offspring. That's what that is. These people have the full complement of human genome markers. That's why we can tell genetically that they're the oldest people on the planet. In southern Africa. Yes, I say, look y'all, this is an important story. Y'all still talking too loud in the back. Keep your conversations to a minimum. I'm just trying to blaze through at this point. Because I know that you all here are with me, am I right? That's right. So, I'm going to show two more slides. The slide doesn't pick me off the stage. Here goes another image of the Khoi San man. By the way, here's something we need to acknowledge. The Khoi San women have a particular biological, a particular anatomical trait more than any other woman on the planet. It is called steatopygia. Say that with me, steatopygia. You know what it is? Some of y'all are smiling, so I think you know what it is. Essentially, these are women that have derrieres that can be measured at a 45-degree angle or a 90-degree angle from their back. You know what I said? That's the sister that in some ways all of humanity is still chasing. We have no memory of her. It's the reason why brothers still love their sisters like that. It's in fact even the reason why some people, like Miley Cyrus, wants to try to be that woman. And that people are still trying to get implants to be that woman. Because even the Tamu has a memory of the African woman. We just have to remind them that the Tamu woman is not that woman. And that that woman is sitting in these chairs right now. The mothers of all of humanity. So listen, this is a long presentation. I hope that maybe Son and I will be able to do it and put it up on the platform so you'll be able to see the entire presentation. Because one of the things we haven't even gotten into is actually how Africans gave mathematics, science, literature to the world. And believe it or not, you know, for those of you who have been watching me or know what I do, I focus on ancient Kemet, right? The story is not entirely found in ancient Kemet. Africans bring this to the world. This is a story that we have to know. This is a story that we must tell our children so they understand who they are and by extension, what they are capable of. When we understand exactly how powerful, how magnificent the African is, our challenges with unity will dissolve. Because we will recognize that our unity is the only thing that will save not just Africans, but all of humanity. African, it is time for you to raise yourselves once more to the forefront of human civilization.
Brother Jabari, can you tell me what the sister is looking at?
I think she's looking at what we're all looking at, basically. I think someone actually asked her about her shape. Yes, that's the sister that we all love. That we all love. You know what I mean? I remember I was standing on the corner and now I'm a priest, right? Standing on the corner just a few days ago. It was me, it was a Muslim brother, it was another, we were all students. And we were having a deep conversation, a sister walked by, and the conversation stopped. And I'm like, I'm looking too long. So the Muslim brother, Muslim elder, you know what he said? He said, brother, the first look is on the Creator. The second look is on you. Watch yourself. With that, family, I just want to say I remember you, I love you, and I hope we will continue to learn and teach our family